looked at me and he gave me one of these. He's like, you get that pump on.
Yes.
And I'm looking at him like, fuck, I need to tone this down a notch.
No, stop.
I don't want it to be like too much.
Right.
I want to be fit, but I still want to be feminine.
Yeah.
I want to be fit, but I still want to have my curve. You know what
Of
I mean?
course.
And that's the one thing I do love about having elders down lows is that I have a little bit of, I have stretchy skin. I get really excess stretchy skin, and people don't really understand that. So it's like, I might have a 4-pack, but I still have a lot of excess stretchy skin.
It's the best of both worlds.
So I still get that kind of curve. So I'm not like super ripped and super shredded because I don't want to be too
All right.
ripped.
I was gonna say how far.
No.
How far does this transformation go?
No. For me, it's just overall health and just being able to like lift things by myself and be able to do things by myself. And again, having the being able to breathe again and oh my God, stamina. Like there's been times in the past where it's like, especially because like I said, I can't run and so my breathing is just shit. But
Right.
You don't know how embarrassing it is when you have to like stop in the middle of intimacy and be like, I need to hit my inhaler real quick. And you're like, give me a second. No, I'm good. I'm good. Just 1 second. It's a little embarrassing.
No,
taking
it's
this as a
nothing
compliment.
embarrassing.
Compliment.
No, trust me, that's what guys will be like. Oh yeah,
I was banging her so hard.
I'm wearing her out. She can't take it. She got to hit her inhaler.
It's embarrassing to me.
That's not embarrassing.
It's embarrassing to me.
Yeah, I
You
know,
mean?
but
it's just like, you know.
So the guy's like, yeah, I made her hit that inhaler, get that puffer out. Now you have had your own transformation because I just saw, and I can't believe it's been this long. You've 5 years sober. Because I remember when you first started your journey on sobriety, and I knew you then, but I didn't we never hung out that much. That I knew that there was a problem.
I think I met you before. I think initially when I met you, it was before I got sober.
Yeah, no. I met you before you got sober. So I remember when
I think I was really fucked up when I met you.
Oh, well, that would explain a lot.
I was probably really fucked up the first time I met you too.
I'm sure. I think everybody was fucked up. No, I've got a picture of you the first time we met. You two, I don't remember.
We met at Bar Sin, didn't we?
Oh, that's where I remember.
You met
I met at Bar Sin too.
No. I met you at Bar Sin. I met you. I don't know. I think Club Hell.
Well, maybe it was Hell.
I think I met you at Club Hell.
I
met you.
Hell.
You met you at Bar Sinister. You were like, "Yeah, you got to have me on the show. I got so many stories." And then you became co-host. You came to one of my shows at the CIA. You weren't coming to see me. You're coming to see one of the bands I was performing
that's
with.
Right.
I don't know if that was.
I remember you talking about being turned on by tits as long as there was a nipple somewhere in the mush, and I was like, Jesus fucking Christ!
No, what I was saying was
as long as there's a nipple in the mush, it's fine.
I did not say.
Damn.
First off, I did not say nipple in the mush.
You were talking about.
I know the joke. I know the joke. The joke is I've never been disappointed looking at a male breast. A lot of women do not like their breasts. I've never been disappointed looking at a male's breast. I could see my grandmother's bingo partner coming out of the shower. As long as there's a nipple in the cottage cheese, I'm getting aroused.
Thanks for the visual.
Well, no, I just want to clarify. Nipple in the it's not the mush.
I think I preferred mush better.
Yeah, it's not the, well, I'll change it to mush.
I censored it.
Anyway, so yes.
In my subconscious.
So we met there, and then I happened to be walking down the street one day, and you're like, I know you. You're a comedian. You're funny. And then, I was like, okay, who's that? And then
it's all blurry, you know.
Yeah, you were that night you were drunk. But I mean, it was 2 a.m. I was walking somebody home from a bar, so I'm sure I was too. And then you came up on something on a Facebook feed, and I was like, oh, that's that girl. And so I went to see. Because you were in Space Cream at the time, and then I went to see.
I remember meeting you at Bar Sin, and I remember you were flirting with me.
Yes.
See, I remember you hit on me.
I'm sure I did. Well, then there must have been some time in between. Yeah, and how did that go?
I think I was in the midst of something at the time.
Oh, okay,
so,
good.
Yeah.
All right, yes. No, I've flirted with you on many occasions. You're a beautiful woman, and I know you've got a boyfriend now, but still.
I think at the time I had a really shitty boyfriend, non-boyfriend.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I actually,
trash bag.
He was garbage. He's a Trump supporter
He's
now.
a trash bag.
He's a trash bag.
He's a
but
trash bag.
he did fuck like it was his job, and he had a
he
machete.
do.
He had a
Yeah,
machete
he
with
do.
Nazi blood on it, which is really ironic that he's now a Trump supporter.
well, no, I think
doesn't understand the.
I don't think that's not ironic at all. That makes perfect sense.
Well, no, it was one of his ancestors had killed a Nazi.
Oh, I killed the Nazi.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm
So
sorry.
I think it's
All right.
it's weaponized ignorance that
Well,
we're
whatever.
dealing with at the moment.
But
Anyway.
did you have to reach for a puffer or an inhaler with him or?
No.
No. Okay. So anyway, so I
They're always the most toxic ones, aren't they? They're really good in bed, but they're just.
Well, also, there's different kinds of good in bed. There's also different kinds of sex. There's different kinds
true.
of, I mean, all of that. And
I'm the other kind of good in bed. I would like to say, but who knows?
I don't know. I mean, listen, I probably gonna embarrass my boyfriend, but I'm happy to say I'm having like the best
Yay.
sex of my life right now with someone who's
good for
very
him. Good
like
for you.
good to me, and
That's
I don't.
good.
It was really important to me to find out that being like a kind person isn't necessarily synonymous with like being vanilla or like passive
exactly.
or anything
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
Right.
It's not how it works. It's just people like what they like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. Good for you guys. Yeah. So anyway, so like I said,
Sorry, Chris.
no, we can talk about fucking all night. I don't really care. But yeah, no, I mean, I had a crush on you. I had a crush on. I've had a crush on every woman in this room at some point or another. But anyway, So I didn't know. I went to see you when you auditioned with Space Cream auditioned and won the spot on the Warped Tour.
Yeah.
And then we've been friends ever since. So
yeah.
that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, because you're a sweetheart. And you're funny.
What can I tell you? See, don't judge me by the mush joke.
You're the nipple in the mush.
I am the nipple in the mush. Yes. So anyway, but like I say, I when you announced on Facebook, and is it? Let me just ask you: is it better that you can announce these things on Facebook, or would you rather have strict anonymity with these type of things?
I think. I mean, the whole thing is you can't say which. If you are in a 12-step program, you're not allowed to say which one you're in.
Right.
That's the most important thing because, if you go out, they don't want you to besmirch the name of... They don't want people to think that if you join, then you'll go out and, fuck up your life.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't say which one I'm in. I think my sponsor would probably prefer that I don't speak about it at all, but... I don't know. I just think it's great, and I actually think it's a really important topic of conversation. And listen, I'm a performer, I like attention, so I'm sure it's wrapped up in all kinds of shit.
Right.
But
I was proud of you then, and I'm proud of you now.
But it's a very healthy and positive thing. So I think it's important to talk about things, especially if it's something that you had overcome. So
I mean, to me, it was really heartening to know that people that I thought were really cool and creative and interesting were sober.
Yeah.
Because when I was fucked up all the time, it was a huge part of the fuel of my material and just the chaos in my life that led to fuel in my material.
Yeah.
And so I was just really afraid that my creative life would be incredibly stifled if I got sober.
Well, you kind of feel like you rely on it in order for it to kind of fuel you and your work.
Mm-hmm.
You're self-destructive for your art.
Yeah, and firstly, what I've learned is it does not take drugs or alcohol to make you self-destructive.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly capable of that in any state. And then beyond that, having some degree of lucidity actually really helps in terms of just the amount that I'm able to create and the way that I'm able to look at it objectively. And like, for instance, I just went into the studio a couple weeks ago. We laid down the instrumentals for 4 new songs, and one of them I went into the booth to sing, and I kept faltering, and it wasn't working, and I came out and I was like, fuck, what's wrong with this? I knew I wasn't ready to record this. I didn't want to come in and do it, and I felt, but the guitarist thought I was ready, and and then I really sat down with it for a second, and I was like, what? My lyrics aren't good enough. My lyrics are not good enough. And the producer who I've known, I actually met the producer when I was in rehab.
That's the other thing, you get connections.
Yeah, I hit on him. And he was like, all right, junkie street child, come record music. And so he's known me for, since before I got sober, and he's sort of seen this it's not really about, like, you stop doing shit. It's like, listen, if you can get fucked up and be fine, or, like, have a good life or whatever, like, power to you. If I could smoke weed recreationally, I would 1000% partake. It's just, it doesn't work that way for me.
Yeah.
So, and so for me, like, I don't really want to get fucked up anymore. So it's more just about, like, sobriety for me is more just about, like, developing as a person and, like, learning to cope with being alive, which doesn't really come naturally to my state.
I mean, if you had an issue with alcohol and it actually came to a point where it's actual alcoholism,
right?
A lot of that addiction isn't like, we're not addicted to pills, we're not addicted to alcohol, we're covering up trauma. And we're trying to numb ourselves and mask ourselves from it. And that's something that I realized too, because I had an issue in my early 20s with meth for several years.
Oh yeah.
And I just
that'll take you down
for
fast,
me, I was just like, my body looks the best, and I'm even making more money on stage because I have more energy and I can but I woke up and I just didn't like the way I was feeling.
Yeah.
And I tried quitting multiple times, and it wasn't until about maybe like at least the second year into like full on, I guess I would call myself a meth head, even though nobody could really tell. I did it a couple times a week. I'd be up for a day or two, then I'd pass out for a day.
Right, binges,
and then I'd be cool, sober for a few days, and I'd get fucked up again on the weekend, because it's the weekend, I'm working, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of it is taking me, especially after I quit, to realize that it's just like, okay, no, it's actually, I'm trying to like erase some things in my head, and I'm using it as a masking thing. And I think a lot of it with the abuse of substance has a lot to do with traumas and PTSD and things like that. So, and I think it's very important that like with you and for myself to acknowledge, hey, this isn't healthy for me. This isn't the direction I want my life, my body to go. I need to make a change.
Yeah.
And so I think that's fucking rad. And it's a lot of people don't understand, oh, well, they're addicted to this and they're addicted to that. Oh, they're just a crackhead. Or they're just this. It's like, no, these are hurt people.
Yeah, they're really sick.
They've survived some fucked up shit that you don't know about, and you need to be way more sympathetic and supportive for people who are battling these horrible addictions.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to fall into that, especially if you're hurting.
I think it's really easy, and I think there are different types of addiction. I mean, I personally believe that some people are like actually medically addicts.
Yeah.
Like it's just a part of their makeup. I think other people just kind of go through periods of that and they're able to get out of it. I think for people who are, like, I consider myself to be a genuine addict, and there's just a lot of stuff from the time I was really little that's just very clear to me that's just, it's a part of my DNA.
Yeah.
And for me, I think it's really important for people to understand that it really is a disease, and it's the same as having, cancer or, MS or whatever. Like, it's not something that you're choosing to go into. You're really sick.
Yeah.
And it's not discerning. It's really not a discerning disease, and it's a really interesting, cunning disease because it tells you that you're not sick.
Yeah.
I don't know any other disease.
You're fine. And when you take this, you are even better.
And that's the thing about
how much more people like you, and how much this is going for you, and da-da-da. Yeah.
No, and that's the thing. I think people are so unempathetic when it comes to any kind of mental illness. And the thing with any kind of mental illness is it tells you that you're, a lot of it is it tells you you're okay.
Yeah.
But you're really sick. And so I just have a lot of empathy for people who are ill, whether they're famous or not, know. Even before I really kind of dealt with my shit, like I just remember watching paparazzi follow Amy Winehouse around when she was like puking in the street and just being like really sadistic.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
Yeah.
And
anyway, but if you make it,
yeah,
it's good that you'll be sober because
well, anyway,
paparazzi be following you around. And,
Well, we'll see. Listen, I'm with you. Like, I try to put a lot of kindness and greatness into the world, but if someone genuinely harasses me, like, I will punch a paparazzi.
I know.
Like, I'll fuck you up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You two and Hannah, I know. If somebody gets in their face,
I ain't
forget.
a Buddhist.
I go to the throat. So.
Well, speaking of that, now, are you gonna go to Mexico for Halloween again?
Huh? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The woman who's producing it right now is pregnant, so I'm not sure.
Oh, well, tell them what you did in Halloween last year in Mexico.
What did I do? What was it? I mean,
you're spitting blood. You were doing also.
No, they hire. Yeah, no, I work with Cirque du Soleil, and it's the same circus that booked me when I was in Dubai for 3 months.
Right.
And I lived out there for 3 months working for a circus out there. And then a couple times a year, usually about for Halloween time, I get booked with them, and we go down to Mexico. And there's a group of us, and we all go down to Mexico, and they have different performers as far as like burlesque performers, sideshow performers, drag queens, and just they want a spectacle. So they fly us down to Mexico City, Mexico, and this is my 3rd year going, and so they always have me spitting blood and doing contortion, and this last year I was doing.